We certainly enjoyed our time in the retail industry. All through high school and university, we worked part-time at Kmart. Discount department store is the way to describe it, I suppose. But we loved that job because precisely it was a job of service. It was customer service. But there is another level that goes beyond the direct help, the direct service. And that other level comes into play when the suffering that an individual faces reaches a magnitude and is of a particular quality, a particular flavor that somehow catches the imagination of others. It sparks something in the collective consciousness of the present zeitgeist of humanity. And a single individual facing impossible odds and enduring tremendous suffering, often alone, that fact, that experience, when the world becomes aware of it, becomes aware of their struggle, again, it captures their imagination. It speaks to something inside of them. Something awakens inside the collective consciousness of a family, of a community, of a city, of a state, of a nation, even the planet. And in that collective consciousness, individuals rise up and take note, and many of them are inspired to do something, to help in some way, to throw their support in favor of the individual or the small group that is facing this enormous struggle, that is going through this tremendous suffering. And it is that potential to inspire and unite, to rally others to a cause, to rally others to the side of a small group of individuals, or even a single individual, a ragtag outlier, a loner, very often a nobody, an underprivileged, unremarkable, seemingly unqualified individual who has been saddled with this enormous undertaking, this enormous challenge, this heroic struggle, and that captures the imagination of the world. And they rally, they flock, they come to that individual's aid, or at the very least, moment by moment, day after day after day, they wait with bated breath for news on the progress that individual is making with regards to that struggle, with regards to that challenge. Now, clearly, there are many examples that we can cite. You may already have case studies being conjured up inside your mind. And we want to be able to share some of those today and look at some of the unique characteristics about them and recognize this is another level that the path of suffering and sacrifice for humanity has the potential to assist and help humanity have a taste, awaken in humanity that spark that comes from the Christ, because it is that fire, the fire of fires, the light of lights, of the being of beings, which is the fire of suffering and sacrifice for others, because it burns. The suffering and sacrifice we face out there is a reflection of the burning need in our heart of hearts to love unconditionally, to give without any expectation of a return, to suffer and to sacrifice for the sake of others. It's more than a interest or a hobby or intellectual calculation. No, it's a passion. Just like the artist has the passionate need to create, just as the musician has a passionate need to play. Remember, way back weeks ago now, we began this whole journey talking about following one's bliss, and we equated it weeks ago with the passion of the Christ. So what we are speaking of today is the Bodhisattva's burning need, passion to suffer and sacrifice for humanity, yes, and the potential of that burning fire within our heart of hearts that comes through us, through our actions, through our suffering and sacrifice for others, for the planet, for all beings, through the visualization, the presentation of that, how the world sees that, the impression that potentially has on others, the potential for the fire of fires that burns in our heart of hearts to spread like a wildfire and kindle in others the fire of fires within their own heart of hearts. Cause that spark. There's a quote from a film that's coming to our mind, and it's from Gangs of New York, where Leonardo DiCaprio, his character, is speaking to other Irish characters. And he says, there's more and more of us coming off the boats every day. And he says, all you need is just a spark, just one spark. And you ignite the activity, the action. And he says, you don't have a gang, you've got an army. He says, there's so many of us now. We won't have a gang, we will have an army. But you just need that spark, just that one spark for it to catch fire. And we know, sadly, history has borne out many times that the Black Lodge inverts that and uses that to hypnotize, to rally, to manipulate the mob, And certainly you look to Germany prior to the Second World War and how that particular individual, whose name we can't really say on this platform, and you look to the televangelist, you look to the politician, the nationalist leader, and the ability for slogans and all manner of psychological wizardry, which is black magic, to manipulate the mob. And that's a great line from Gladiator, where they're speaking of Commodus, the emperor, and Proximo says to Maximus about Commodus, he knows all too well how to manipulate the mob. And that's what the Black Lodge does. But it's as above, so below. That's that power. It's like the Force in Star Wars. It can flow either way. It's the creative force. You can, unfortunately, inspire people to do evil, just as you can inspire them to do good. You can light a spark in them to cause chaos and damage and destruction and death, or you can light a spark in them to help awaken and realize that potential of their higher self and that longing of their higher self to do what it can do, so that individual can be the best that they can be, their highest expression, which is always one of service of others. It's always giving. It's always bringing what's inside of you and giving it to the world. That's always the highest expression of any being. It's not about what you take. It's not about what you accumulate. It's none of that. So again, this is another level, another layer of the Bodhisattva path, and how the example is not just an intellectual example. It's not just an esoteric example. It's not just an allegory for us to deconstruct and understand, oh, okay, sure, yeah, we too have to take up our cross, and you have to go through our path and suffering and this and that. And, no, it's recognizing the inspiration and the potential to unify and the potential to light a spark and what can evolve out of that, what can balloon out of that, if you will, snowball out of that.